choose to keep right.
Hey friends, it's Thursday, September 9, 2021. Welcome back to Prepare to Go There, the most overlooked and underrated coaching conversation that we can be a part of right now. And I just say that because I'm convinced that our future deserves our focus today. You know, so many people, they're dragging their feet and they're dragging the past into their present. And I believe we can find real answers, real solutions to really move forward into the future. And so thank you for doing this. It really means a lot that you would invest this time to be listening, to be learning, just to go on the journey together. And my name is Peter, and I have the privilege of going on this extended coaching journey with so many friends and leaders, and really just seeing how they are taking on the future with intentionality and integrity. And so this moment matters. I know it's just a regular Thursday for most of us, and we're just kind of doing life in the moment. But what we do today is absolutely going to have ripple effects into the future, and that affects us, but it also affects a bunch of other people. And so this is a big deal. So welcome back to the Future Frontier. It's my conviction, a growing conviction, I'll say it that way, that leadership is going to be more important, not less important for where we're going. And we don't want to just wing it and try to show up. We want to show up ready. We don't want to just try to rise to the occasion. I would much rather fall back on my preparation. And so a lot of people don't see the preparation that's going on during the mundane stages of your life. But when you see people that have put in the work and they've lived honorably when no one was watching, and then they step up, that's something you can, really appreciate. So I've learned from experience and observation that a lot of people have titles, and maybe even they have vision, but that doesn't mean that they know how to lead others into a better future. And you say, what are you talking about? I mean, aren't they leading? They're the leader, right? They're telling people what to do and where to go. And they're describing a better future, but are they living like that future is real and attainable? And the difference between a talker and a doer is self-leadership. The difference between someone who has great ideas and someone who is actually forming an identity is self-leadership. Self-leadership isn't everything, but it's really important because it's the first step. Self-leadership, servant leadership, and generational leadership. You have to lead yourself, then you can lead others, and then you can lead through others. And so we don't want to overlook or, just kind of swerve on this topic. We want to focus on it, and we want to get better at leadership, starting with us. Self-leadership is not selfish. Self-leadership is self-control. Self-leadership is learning how to put the right values into action. Make it a part of your life, so that way, as you lead others, you're doing so with confidence and competence. So that's why we're here. We're showing up day after day. We call it Prepare to Go There because I'm convinced your future deserves your focus. And I show up daily because I love being a part of this journey with you. I love dreaming about the future. I love seeing what's possible and remembering what's important. But it's not just going to happen by accident. It has to happen intentionally. And so we have to take the call to action as friends and as leaders to focus practically on the future and then put in the work day by day. How are we going to lead ourselves there tactically and practically? And that's why we're figuring out next steps. We're figuring out rhythms. We're working on the stuff that are like the boring basics, but they really do go a long way. So if this resonates with you, a quick invitation. I would love for you to be a part of our email community. It's called the Future Friends. We're actually going to be talking about Future Friends a lot in concept and making that personal, because we're talking about disrupting relationships for the future. And you need some friends for your future. You need some people that are going to see who you are becoming and get behind that. And so once a week, at least once a week, I'll send out an email with all of these coaching conversations, and then you can see it and keep up with what's going on, even if you're not able to be on live. And I see there are some future friends on live, so go ahead and say hi and let us know where you're watching from. It's great to see Joshua back on. I really appreciate it, man. And I'm going to be sharing a free gift with you guys just for listening till the end. It's a fail-proof planning guide, and I want you to get that at the end. But let's dive into the conversation at hand, which is all about disruption and leveraging disruption to lead yourself to new levels. Leveraging disruption to help others get to the next level as well. One of my mentors, Enrique DeBale, he's an amazing guy. And he said, the way you do something is the way you do everything. The way you do something is the way you do everything. I think that's so loaded to think about the choices we're making today, the habits we're forming today, the decisions and the conversations that we're having today are actually adding fuel to our focus, to our future, or they are, putting rain and water and kind of dousing that out. So let's be aware. Another quote is, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Like, we've heard that a lot. Many of us have been doing ministry with teenagers and young adults, and we say that a lot, man, your friends matter. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. But for us, how are we doing with that? Let's look in the mirror for a second and say, let's take an audit. Let's take an inventory of our relationships and see how have they actually helped or hurt us in the past 5 years. They say if you add up the 5 closest relationships in your life and average that, that's like your projected income. I mean, that's astonishing to think that much influence is in your sphere of influence. So I want to get into this. I do have some slides, but I really want to just lean on these fresh notes that I made as well. So I'm going to kind of breeze through the slides and then just start hammering on some next steps and some practical things we can be doing to leverage disruption, because this is so important. Many people plateau in their relationships. They can get in ruts and not even realize it. And what's at stake is the person you're becoming. And what's at stake is the empowered network of friends and leaders that's already in the room. Now, I'll share a quick story just to try to set this up. I've been saying that jet lag is a metaphor for disrupting yourself, because when you go on an international trip, you get in the airplane and it's kind of, I don't know, it almost feels a bit timeless. You're kind of suspended up there while you're traveling, and you don't realize how much is changing. You don't realize how much is happening in the airplane. Man, as far as you know, you're sitting in the same seat, looking the same direction for a long time. But what's happening around you is wild. I mean, you are cruising towards a whole new destination, and you're going to end up in a brand new time zone. in this metaphor. And so if you're like a newbie, if you're an amateur and you're not really aware of where you're going, you're going to stay up late. You're going to enjoy all the amenities. You're going to be watching all the movies, eating all the food. And it basically feels like like a sleepover, You're just going to be staying up late. And then you arrive at the new location and something has already changed and there's nothing you can do about it. And now you're left catching up, and you have to go through all of the effects of that. And so the metaphor and hopefully the principle in that is you have to identify with where you're going as soon as you get in. In fact, you could probably do it before you even get on the airplane, but as soon as you sit down on that airplane, man, you change your watch to the new time zone, you join that new sleep schedule, you're role playing, you're going through the steps to identify with the new time zone. You're saying, hey, if they're sleeping over there, I better be sleeping here. And if they're awake over there, I got to power through and be awake here. And for your future, you have to have a clear vision or a clear understanding of who you're becoming. And then you have to identify with that. It's not just saying, well, I need to run. It's that, no, I am a runner. And I'm going to do this because I am a runner. It's not because, I think it's a good thing, to have integrity. No. You are a person of integrity. You have, this is part of your identity. This is integrated into who you are. Your repetition becomes your reputation. Your repetition becomes your reputation. Your repetition becomes your reputation. So are you identifying with who you're becoming? And then are you helping others identify with who they're becoming as well? My question for you today is, do you know how to reintroduce yourself when people are too familiar with you? It's a really big deal. Do you know how to reintroduce yourself when people are too familiar with you? Man, when I look at the life and the leadership of Jesus, he dealt with this. There's this moment where he goes back to his hometown and everybody is so familiar with him that they don't realize that he has actually stepped into his identity and he is now doing amazing miracles. And he wants to do that. He wants to be that person in their midst in that moment, and they don't even see it. They see him, but they don't really see him. And so he has to move on from there. He doesn't get offended. He doesn't get all worked up. I would imagine he was pretty sad. He was pretty sad about that. But then he goes right across the lake, right across the water. He goes to another place and they have a different view. They have a different understanding of who he is. And they respect him and they receive him, and it's to their benefit. So for us, how do you actually reintroduce yourself to people that have become too familiar with you, and then vice versa? Because I think it's so important that we are growing in our own awareness of the people around us and realizing that no one is static. They might be stagnant, but they're not static. And people are changing. People are making choices. People are on a journey. And we have to begin to map the journey that they've been on. And we have to see, okay, this is kind of the direction they're going. This is kind of the direction I'm going. And we have to update our view of the people around us so that way we can better relate to them, so we can better serve them, so we can better encourage them, so we can be an example and guide them, hopefully through some of the good things that we're experiencing. So my first thing is, don't assume, please don't assume that people are just always going to be the same. Don't assume that your high school buddies are still living in the high school years. Even if they're in the glory days, people have changed. People have had a lot of experiences. We think this is kind of like the baby syndrome. A baby, I don't understand all the technicals about it, but I have the big idea that there's a point in a baby's world when they're so young where you do the peekaboo game. And when they don't see you, they literally think you vanished. They think you like went off the map. They don't know. But then when you kind of reemerge, it's like, oh, they're back in my world. And so many of us, we have kind of this childish view that just because people are not interacting with us on a daily, weekly basis, that somehow they just stopped living their lives, that they're just waiting for us, or they're waiting for you just to keep moving with their life. No, people have been living lives the same way you've been changing and making choices and going through your journey. Guess what? They're all doing that right now, everywhere. And so don't assume that people are the same. Realize that change is happening. And instead of feeling caught off guard, oh my goodness, you cut your hair. Oh my goodness. You got a new job. Oh my goodness. Look, you're so, whoa. I mean, we can be so caught off guard and even, pushed into offenses because we thought, well, I didn't think you were going to change that much. I didn't think you were going to do that. I didn't think you were going to move off that far. But people they're living their lives. They're making choices. And so having this awareness that this is happening protects us from this familiarity, becoming over familiar with the way people are living their lives, so we can be better attuned, we can be better synced up to engage people. Whenever I see someone after a while, even if I've seen them on social media, I never want to assume that it's the same playing field. I always want to be updated. I want to be more interested than I'm trying to be interesting. That's a Jim Collins quote. I want to be more interested in them. That's why it's so cool to hang out with people. That's why it's so awesome to be with people, because even if you have known them for many years, they've still been growing. They've still been changing. They've still been making progress in their life. So you can always find them in a new place. You can say, wow, tell me about you. Where are you at? What have you been learning? What's going on? How are you doing? And you're trying to connect and reconnect with people because you're not assuming that they're just the same. And when we fall into that familiarity, we're losing touch with our futurability. So we have to disrupt these relationships by reintroducing. I said reintroduce yourself, but learn how to reintroduce each other. Learn how to reintroduce one another. To realize that people are stepping into new roles in life. They're taking on different goals. It's exciting. I call this relational maintenance. Relational maintenance. You got to talk to people and you got to get past the highs and the buys. You got to go deeper, and you have to, if you care about a relationship, like if you genuinely care about people in your life, you have to investigate where they are, how far they've come. You have to keep track of their journey, keep track of their story. And hopefully you can, again, not just stay caught up, because so many times we feel behind, and that's where we get offended. And that's where we have all these, differences of opinions, like, well, because there was some closeness, but proximity does not imply closeness. It doesn't guarantee closeness. So you have to initiate, you have to be intentional about being relational. We're going to talk about how to put that into the calendar. We're going to talk about some things we can do practically to stay intentional about being relational. And at this part of the conversation, I'm really just encouraging you, don't assume that the people in your world have just put their life on pause until they see you again. They're still making moves. They're still moving forward. And so let's be humble, let's be open, and let's continually stay aware of where people are in their life story and the stages of their life so we can be a part of their future and not just have some past. Super important. I personally feel like I'm not getting this across, but I want this to sink in. Relational maintenance. What do I mean by relational maintenance? It's like you're driving your car and your car requires maintenance. You can drive it for a while. You can run off it a while, but whatever the ratio is, however miles it is, you got to take it in and you got to have some servicing. You got to get it checked. You got to check the oil and tires and engine and all this stuff and get a new tag, and you got to do the maintenance. And what's at stake if you don't do the maintenance periodically when it is convenient, because it's very convenient now. You just make an appointment. You can take your car over there. Sometimes they'll even shuttle you back and forth, if you have to keep it a long time. But you have to do the maintenance on your car when it is convenient with just these periodic pit stops, checkups, appointments. Otherwise, what's at risk is you're going to be cruising down the highway, and when it becomes inconvenient, something happens. Something breaks down on you. Something melts down, and then you're in danger of some sort of burnout scenario, and then you got to peel out and you got to go on the side of the road, and now you're in a whole different scenario. And a lot of people wonder, well, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened in my marriage. I don't know what happened with my job. I don't know what happened. I mean, there's a staggering statistic that most people today that are quitting their jobs, they're not quitting the job, they're quitting their boss. Staggering statistic. How many people say, I'm not just leaving the job because I don't like what I do. I love the work I do, but I cannot work with these people anymore. And you say, what happened? We were with them, all the time. We were doing all these days working together, hanging out, months and years. What happened? I'm going to tell you, if you don't do relational maintenance, it's not enough just to keep cruising and cruising and cruising and just say, hey, how you doing? And just building. Are you doing relational maintenance? That would be an example of disrupting your relationships. You have to actually change things up and say, okay, I don't want to assume that just because I talk to you often that I really know where you are or I really know where your life story is going. And I want to be a part of your journey. I want to be a part of, because man, that is such a big impact. You can have such a positive influence on people if you just stay in sync with who they're becoming instead of them feeling like they have to shed you because you're the one bringing so much familiarity into the relationship and you're not adding value to their own futurability. So do the relational maintenance. I literally had this happen recently. I can't take credit for it. I had a good friend and he said, hey, I want to do coffee with you. I want to see how you're doing and all this. And he's a great friend of mine, but he sat me down. And he said, I just want to hear from you. What's going on? How you doing? Tell me what's new. Like really, really open up. And I want to make sure that I have all of the pieces in your life story, because what happens is we see things from our view, but we don't understand the plot. We don't understand some of the nuances that are going on in everyone's narrative. We don't understand how they came to those changes and how they came to these choices. And if we're going to be, if we're willing to watch movies that are fictional stories about other people, wouldn't we want to know our friends and our family and our coworkers and other people's story, like really understand their plots and their choices? And if you will be willing to be open and observant, you might actually earn the right to influence their narrative, to have a positive impact on their story. But if you're just going to kind of be absent-minded, if you're just going to keep cruising and you're unwilling to do relational maintenance when it's convenient, unfortunately, you might have some blowouts when it's inconvenient. I want to challenge you to identify with the journey that people are on and identify with where they are going. I want to tell a story about this. And I hope it's cool, and I say it only as a compliment, but I'm so proud of my sister, Abby Circles, and she's got an amazing blog. I say it affectionately, she is a mom blogger to the max, and so you got to check her out, thecircles.com. But anyways, I mean, I've always been very close to my siblings and my sister, for sure. And so we grew up best of friends. And when she went to college, she started this relationship with this guy. Because to me, I didn't really know what was going on. But she started this relationship with this guy. And that is thankfully her husband now, Ryan, who's amazing, one of my best buds. And we're doing life together and we're in ministry together and all this stuff. But I'm saying this as a story because at first they were still, probably just in the early stages of a platonic friendship that was becoming more and more romantic. But I'm so grateful that I saw the futurability of her and that choice and that direction and that relationship. And I am really proud now, and I hope that they would agree, but I tried to intentionally, I saw the trajectory of that relationship, and I really prayed about it and processed it, and I said, okay, my little sister, my dear sister, is stepping into a new season of her life, and I'm not going to be like one of the main guys in her life. I'm not going to be a main relationship in her life, and I cannot be offended that she is changing and she's stepping into this awesome new stage of her life. I have to support it. I have to lean into it. I have to see and recognize that she is changing in her story. This is an awesome chapter in her story. I want to celebrate it, because if you become overly familiar to the people that are in your life, you'll get offended by their future. You'll get offended. You'll get too sentimental. You'll get too nostalgic, and you will resist their change. You'll resist them changing. And you see this all the time. There are parents. I've heard this quote more than once. This is getting a little spicy here, but it's all good. But parents who say, well, they'll always be baby in my eyes. They'll always be a baby in my eyes. And I'm telling you, that is not always helpful. It's not always helpful to have, here they are. They might be an adult. They might be married. They might have kids of their own. But in their head, they're reinforcing this mental picture of someone that person is not anymore. Someone that person has not been for a while. And so now the interactions, the connections, I'm telling you, this is a big deal. When I look at the lifestyle and the leadership of Jesus, I'm blown away by his intuitive genius. I mean, obviously, right? But there's this moment where he's been on this journey with these people. They want to learn of him. They want to do life with him. And he brings them to this point where he says, hey, you're no longer just the servants. We're friends now. He actually identifies to them that their relationship had changed. He identified to them, hey, we're all in a new chapter now. And if we're just kind of going, and we don't understand that life is happening and people are making choices and changes, and we have to keep updating our identities. We have to keep updating our relationships. We have to keep doing the work. We have to be intentional about being relational. Otherwise, we're going to be operating on skewed views of each other. We're going to be more prone to familiarity and offense, and we're not going to be able to help people move into the future. And then what happens is relationships begin to rot from the inside. Relationships will rot from the inside. And it's not because anything bad happened. It's not because there was any kind of, Wild West gunslinger shootout. It wasn't like there was some moment where, you had this confrontation. It was because there was no futurability left in that relationship. It was all based off of all of this baggage or all of this history. And you say, well, those were good times and those were good moments. How do I bring that into the future? You bring them into the future by reinvesting them into the relationship, and you reinvest into who they're becoming instead of just holding them at this level and holding them to this expectation of who you think they should be based on where they've been. So, a lot of you might be struggling with where your relationships are. And I'm going to tell you, one thing to look out for is familiarity. Familiarity can turn into offense. And the way to move forward is forgiveness. You have to practice forgiveness on a real practical level. I'm telling you, because if this becomes a wedge in your relationships, you'll have the same contacts on your phone. You'll have the same access, and you'll choose not to take it. You'll have the same access and choose not to take it. And what's happening is you are bypassing the relational maintenance. You're saying, no, not today. I'm not feeling it. No, not next week. Not a good time for me. No, not. And the whole time, the car is running, and it needs work. The relationship is happening, and it needs work. And so don't get offended because offense becomes a prison, or familiarity can become a prison, where we are holding people hostage to a past version of who they've been. We're holding them hostage. We're saying, no, that's the way I remember you. That's the way you should be acting. I'm so glad that I'm not the same person. I'm so glad that people aren't holding me, hostage. And sometimes they do, and it's okay. And they don't know better because they don't know me. They don't know they don't know the story that I've been on. And so all they know is what they remember about me from a past season. And that's cool. We get to be gracious. We get to be kind. But let's ask caring questions and clarifying questions and say, hey, on the inside, what I'm thinking is, hey, man, I value this person and I want to keep this relationship strong for the future. I want to invest in this relationship for the future. It has a ton of futurability. And because I care about it going into the future, I want to not assume that I've got them all figured out. And I want to keep exploring their narrative. I want to better understand them. I want to lean into them and who they're becoming. And I want to support where they are going. So forgiveness, you got to walk in forgiveness and get over familiarity and use all the great experiences as social capital that you can reinvest into the future so you can take more risks together. I have a great friend, and they got married. I was in their wedding and all this stuff, and they moved off to another state and they got kids, and it was amazing. They started a family, and then they moved back into our area and they jumped back into our church community. And I'm so, so grateful that we didn't just kind of coast off of past relationship, but you have to enlarge your view of the people in your life. And you have to enlarge your view and say, hey, they've got all this stuff that has changed. Embrace that, leverage that. And then beyond that, be a friend to somebody's future. Be a friend to somebody's future. The reason I'm okay with the changes that happened in my sister, and we don't talk as much as we used to. That's cool. Just different seasons of life. We're just as close. In fact, I would say we're closer. I hope she would say the same, that we're closer because I was actually being intentional and being proactive about this season that we're in right now. We talked about this season. We dreamed about this season. With my friend who moved away, came back with this amazing big family. Man, we talked about it. I know all of the plot points in their story. Man, I celebrate it. And when you can leverage value and futurability, one of the practical things I do is I pray into people's future. I say, man, I'm dreaming with you. I'm excited about where you're going. So when it actually happens, I'm not offended that they've changed. I'm not offended that things are different. I'm excited because I was a part of that journey with them. So be somebody's future friend. All right, now let's land the plane with some action steps. Action steps. Let me know in the chat what's coming on strong. What is resonating with you? What's the loudest that you're hearing? So first off, I would say you need to identify. Now I'm talking about you now. A big part of all this conversation was don't assume that you're just going to be over familiar with other people. Now let's talk about you. Do you know how to reintroduce yourself? Because I'm telling you, I want to encourage you. You don't have to burn all your bridges to move forward with your future. You don't have to cut all these. There are scenarios where you've been in a really toxic relationship and you can't get healed in the same place you got harmed. You can't get healed in the same relationship you got hurt. Now, that's not marriage advice. I'm not saying that it's marriage, but you need to go get marriage counseling and have people that really know you and know your story and go with you. But I'm saying there are times and settings where the relationship won't last, and that's okay. You are more than that relationship. You can grow. You know, that's not your failure is not your identity. You can move on. But what I have found is many times I'm more excited about keeping the futurability of a relationship, and I don't have to be boxed into whether it was a weird relationship or a codependent relationship or whatever, awkward relationship. I don't have to be boxed into that to keep the line open. Just have some understanding, update things. Just say, hey, I'm so happy. I like where I am in life. I want to tell you about it. Let me tell you where I'm going. I want you to be a part of it. We're going to set some different boundaries. You could do that discreetly, or you could do that directly. But I hope that you become empowered without moving to a different state and joining the witness protection program. And you got to take on this whole new avatar, this whole new identity, because you just don't know how to manage all these relationships. I hope that you're actually becoming more mature, more grounded, more integrated, and that people actually see that growth and they can celebrate it. And then they're like, wow, okay, this is good. Yeah, so this is different. We're going to go with that guy. The new guy, right? The guy Peter's becoming. So here's some action steps. 1, identify and initiate new relationships. You have to keep initiating new relationships. You have to keep reaching out. You got to keep making friends because you're adding futurability. You can't say that you have everything you need to lead. You can't say you have everything you need to succeed. You can't say you have everything you need right now. Even if you have a really close-knit group of friends, family, like me and my wife, we're so good. I was joking. I was like, y'all, I could stay quarantined so long. You have no idea how long I could stay locked in. You know, I have a totally different opinion on that, but I'm just saying as a joke, like me and her, you could lock me in with my wife. We could do life. I mean, I could go on the moon. I could be on a colony on the moon. I would have so much fun just hanging out in a moon house with my wife. I mean, it would be so amazing. But you know what? As amazing as our relationship is, I still need other relationships. I still need to keep growing. I still need to keep giving. I still need to reach out, because every friend that you make is adding futurability. Every friend that you make is teaching you something and giving you value. And so you got to stay humble, and you got to be a learner, and you have to receive these friendships and these partnerships as a gift. And so you got to be intentional about that. You got to be intentional about being relational. I would encourage you to set a priority list for the season of life that you're in. Set a priority list for the season of life that you're in. It's not ultimate, but you say, hey, in this season of life, in this stage of life, who are some of the people that are in our life in a strategic way? We're noticing that they have value, and we want to make ourselves available to that. We want to add value to that because the law of reciprocation is so powerful. And you have to give. You have to give time. You have to give transparency. You have to give into that friendship. And then out of that, what's going to happen is you set the priority list. You say, hey, the calendar is crazy. Life is always happening. We'll always make excuses. There will always be a reason not to get together, but we're going to be intentional about being relational. And while we have this season of our life, while we're in this stage of our life, we're going to be very intentional about chasing these 3, 4, 5 friends or couples or leaders, whether it's a friendship, a partnership, a mentorship, discipleship. You got to be intentional about being relational. And there's this amazing moment where Jesus says, Lord, I was faithful, or I was intentional. I did my part with the people you gave me. The people you gave me. Are you kidding me? That right now in this season of your life, there are people that are a gift. They've been given to your life for you to steward that relationship, not for yourself, but for the future. And you will get great value out of it, but what you can accomplish together is so much more than what you could imagine on your own. So notice the people that are already in your life and give notice to the people that are in your life. Say, hey, I want to be a part of your story. I want to really know you. I want to do relational maintenance. I want to, stay close. I want to go the distance. I want to add future to this and be intentional about it. Chase after people. Now, in order to do that, a lot of people, they're not going to just make a commitment to you and say, we'll see you every Monday. Now, my wife and I literally did that every Monday. We would go visit my parents and her parents intentionally for the first year or so of our marriage. And literally every Monday we were investing into our parents. That was just something personal that I wanted to do because I realized that we were all in a different season and I had to update the relationship, and I didn't want to assume that I was just going to be running off of past value, past experiences. And I wanted to add new value, and I wanted to make new memories with my parents and her parents. And so we've done some big things together, like really big things, because we want to add futurability to that relationship and not just keep running off of past memories. And so we put that into the calendar. And there will be people that are that close or that important to you that you need to really schedule hardline into your calendar, set calendar rhythms and say, hey, we're going to do this once a week, or we're going to do this every other week, or we're going to do this once a month, or we're going to do this once every 3 months. And one of the things that I've done, which is so much fun, is on my birthday, I give my birthday away to my friends. And we just make a moment for them, and we hang out, and we'll do a mastermind. And that's kind of how this whole project grew, because I was sharing some of this stuff about self-leadership with them. And they're like, yeah, go for it. Let's keep doing this. And it's been so fun to put that in the calendar. So now it's a big joke. Everybody knows, hey, come time for Peter's birthday, we all get to hang out. And they look forward to it. And hopefully they look forward to it because they're hanging out with each other just as much as they're hanging out with me. I have so much fun knowing that I was a bridge builder that kind of pulled together all these amazing, phenomenal people and put them all in the same room. I love seeing that. I love making the introduction. I love making the connection. I love hearing where people are in their story and then saying, hey, let's get y'all together. And you could call it networking. I don't really call it networking. I'm just saying I have awesome friends and I want them all to hang out together and do great things together. And I'm okay if I make the introduction and then kind of pull out and just watch some awesome things happen. So have a priority list. You got to really chase those people in your lives. And then I think it'll be really good to notice and give notice. Notice and give notice. Notice when people are having the big days, the bad days, and the big decisions. Notice where people are when they're having big days, bad days, and big decisions. That's where you got to be there for people. You know, most people, they're just kind of doing life. That's cool. And that's when you're saying hi and bye. But man, you got to be there for people. Be there for the people in your family, in your community, on your team. I'm not as good as I want to be in this area. Honestly, I'm not as good. I got to get better at this. But my only strategy for this, and I'll be very transparent with you, my only strategy is I try whenever I'm with people in the moment to be so future focused and to add so much value and dream with them so big that when we get to the future, I've invested enough to have an ROI when we get there. That's not the only strategy. You kind of need a multifaceted thing. Like I have other friends and they're super, super relational and they're very detail oriented and they can keep track of a calendar and all that stuff. But you need a strategy for how you're stewarding relationships and how you're adding more and more futurability to these relationships. I'm blown away by this idea. People are going to go see the Lord and they're going to say, Lord, we know you. How are you doing? Let us in. And he's going to look back and he's going to say, I don't even know you. Who are you? And I've wondered about that. And man, it's gripped my heart for a long time. But I want you to think about it this way. If we cannot live our whole life off of one season of our life. You cannot live your whole life off of one season of your life. And we think that just having a relationship with the Lord, one season in our life is enough to have this very rich and nuanced friendship with the Lord. And he's going to look back and be like, hey, you're not the same person you were. You're not even the same person. Look at all this stuff that's changed. And now you're just trying to reach back into like the distant past and you're trying to act like that's enough. But I don't even know who you are anymore. Don't do that, guys. Don't do that to your friends. Don't do that to your friends. Celebrate the journey they're on. Dream with them about the future. Add value to where they're going. Be somebody's future friend. Notice those big moments in their life. Give notice to your big moments so that way they can stay up to date with you and you are being kind and you are being clear in your own communication and you're letting people know. You're actually giving an antidote to familiarity. You're the antidote to familiarity. Your communication, the things you talk about, the things you open up about, the things you share, that's the antidote to familiarity. They say, oh, I didn't know. I didn't even know that you like, I have an amazing friend and they're going for their doctorate now. I was like, whoa, that's amazing. You're going for your doctorate now, right? Give people the antidote to familiarity so that way they can stay on the journey towards the future with you. And particularly whenever you hang out with people that are younger than you in like a leadership role or a mentorship role, you really have to guard that. You really cannot, when you see them growing up and you see them getting married or you see them launching out, you can't just say, oh man, there's little Timmy, there's little, there's little John. Haha, what's up, Squirt? His name's not Squirt. His name's you can't go by the nickname. You have to change your view of them. They've changed. They've grown. They're older. They've had experiences. They might be a leader that you need to lean on in the future, right? The goal is not just to parent people forever. The goal is to de-parent people so that way they grow up into mature, empowered leaders. And then you can actually enjoy a whole new dynamic in that relationship. And you've gone through the investment of being a parent in their life or being a mentor in their life. So now you could be a partner and a friend in their life, and you have a whole new dimension to that relationship, which is a joy. So this is huge. This is huge. I don't know if you're catching this, but I'm telling you, this is massive. You have to be willing to disrupt your relationships because you want to give people a future. Give people a future. All right. I'm out of time. I really appreciate this. Let me breeze through these back to the end. If this resonated with you, I really want to ask you, go for it. Subscribe and share this conversation with other people. And then join the email community, Future Friends. Thank you for staying on. There will be a link at the bottom of this video. Thank you, Joshua. There is a link at the bottom of this video, and if it's not, I will get it there ASAP. But it is a link to your fail-proof planning guide. I want to help you get going so you can get better. And it's going to be a PDF with just some clarifying questions, so that way you can work on your goals, identify your rhythms, establish your routines, and get going with your day. And then we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be amazing because it is Future Friday. Future Friday is when we basically open it up with no content and we just have a conversation. I'm bringing on a great friend of mine. I'll just kind of throw his name out now. No turning back. Chris Needham. He's a great friend, super smart, just an amazing guy. I'll brag on him more later. But what I really appreciate about this guy is we have been very close friends since we were like in the 5th grade. I mean, we knew each other because our parents were friends and have been friends for a long time. And so we knew each other when we were like 2 or 3. I mean, technically, I don't think I remember that, but we really became friends when we were in the 5th grade. And what I want to model and what I want to bring him on for is to say, like, how do you think we did this? How do you think that we were able to journey with each other so long, so far? Now, obviously, we could talk about covenant relationships, but I mean, practically, let's get some understanding on how do you journey with people through different seasons of their life, journey with people through different stages, so that way we're giving each other a future and not holding people back with familiarity or offense. And I don't know, we've just had an amazing, I can't take credit for it. I'm just super thankful for the way that he has kind of leveled up in life with me. And he keeps pushing me higher. He keeps encouraging me to go for it. He was a big advocate for me doing this on Prepare to Go There, and to, you know, be a resource and be a coach for others online. And so I'm super grateful to have amazing friends. I'm the product of my relationship with the Lord first most, but I'm also the product of my relationship with a lot of other people. So you guys are amazing. I appreciate you jumping on, and I want to challenge you to do the homework. Really do the work it takes. Put in the preparation today, because where you're going is too important. Remember, you're going places, so prepare to go there. See you tomorrow.